Wake me up inside. I can't wake up. Wake me up inside. Save me. Call my name and say.
There was a little bit of a skip at the start, but that's about it. So I might be off by like a half a second.
Well, there's no more Predator 2 episodes in our podography.
Oh yeah.
So I'll just keep an eye out.
Oh yeah. Hopefully we'll never have something like that ever again.
No. Are you gonna watch the new Predator movies this year?
Didn't they? It's like 3 Predator things coming down the pipeline. So
there's I think there's a rumored Predator video game, which could be cool.
I mean,
they got that multiplayer one, which seems fine.
Yeah.
And then there's the animated anthology film on Hulu, which does look cool.
I mean,
and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah, someone who likes Star Wars Visions, that could be fun.
Yeah, and then Predator in the future with like Colonial Marines and shit.
Yeah,
which everyone's been asking for in the fandom.
Oh, yeah, we've all desperately been waiting for that.
Well, I know you're on the very opposite side of the excitement for that one.
Well, I think I have settled on the Predator was interesting in one movie. I think it's just I think I'm just there. I don't think the Predator is interesting enough to sustain a franchise. It's one of those things where like it sounds cool, right? You know, like every time you could pitch, you go Predator versus fucking, I don't know, I was trying to think of something stupid, versus Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, Greatest Show on Earth Circus. Like, and you're like, that sounds like it would be awesome. And it's just like, no, because the Predator, like, part of what made Predator good was like the build up and tension of the first movie, right? Like once you discover what the Predator is, it's less interesting, you know? Because by the end of Predator, you know all the Predator's tricks. The first movie, I mean.
Well, listen. Everyone knows Waffle Press superfan, #1 fan, Dan Doherty's dad had the best premise, which was the Nice Guys sequel should have also been Shane Black's The Predator, where the Nice Guys follow a trail of murders and it leads back to the Predator.
Now, you know what? If you did a Predator movie where the Predator showed up for like 10 minutes of screen time, then I might be into it. Like, that might be the answer.
Listen, is the Predator a superhero?
I mean, that's the thing. That's what they were trying to do with Shane Black's one. Remember, like that was basically where that movie ended.
A little bit.
They were trying to. It was weird. Where like they were gonna have. Remember, because they were gonna like team up with the Predators at one point, and then like everyone got cold feet, but then they still wanted that superhero ending. What a dumb movie.
Yeah. Could have been a fun dumb movie though, which is what they set out to do.
Yeah.
But we will talk about other iterations of failed stuff here this season on the failed blockbusters retrospective, failed superhero movies. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me, as always, is my co-host, Macaringo.
That's me.
Matt, it genuinely feels good to be back, even though we already are off topic in the opening to the season.
I mean, that's what we do.
That's what we do. And you know, I feel less bad about that. Are you familiar with Pretty Much It?
What? Who?
Pretty Much It. They're like an old school like YouTube commentary channel. Well, they're not really commentary. They used to do like video reviews and stuff like that, and now they do like commentary tracks, quote unquote, where they watch stuff and whatever, right? But they don't basically talk about like the plot of what's happening. They do what we do, and they're much more successful than we are. But I get a kick out of them, and the main guy, Eric Striffler. If you listen to this, you probably do listen to Pretty Much It. Eric Striffler was just saying, like, you know, we don't really commentate on the movie. We just use it like as an excuse to bullshit. And I'm like, okay, good to know.
Yeah.
If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, because sometimes the stuff we watch just isn't that interesting.
Well, yeah. I was going to say we should slow down a little bit because we got a lot here. There's a lot of meat on these bones to talk about. You know, like we can't waste time going on tangents. It's gonna be like the JFK episode. Like we're just gonna. I got stacks of papers here. Oh yeah, they released the JFK files. How about that?
Yes, that's how long we've been gone. Yep.
Can you believe it? Can you believe what those files revealed?
Yeah,
Can you can
can
you
you believe Lee Harvey Oswald killed
can
JFK?
you believe Jackie O returned fire? That was
Here's your crossover movie. To tie back to the opening. The Predator versus JFK.
all right. Hey, well, just while we're on this topic of superheroes, uh, Michael Fassbender's Magneto is tied into
Oh
the
my god.
JFK assassination. He was trying to save him, allegedly. Uh, who knows what that was about? I don't think they ever got too deep with it, other than the JFK was secretly a mutant. Um, I guess his power was fucking a lot of women, but they never elaborate.
Well, not just women.
Hey, but
Is
and
that in the JFK files? I didn't read that.
who knows? And then the other thing is that I know all of us out there went and saw Captain America, New World Order, right? Is that what it's called?
No. It's Brave New World because the New World Order sounded anti-Semitic,
um,
which it did, which is a good
yeah.
call on that
Yeah,
part.
but then Brave New World doesn't make any sense. Whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
but we all saw that movie, which is why I remember the title. Bucky Barnes canonically assassinated JFK and is now running for Senate of the United States.
Is he a senator or a congressman? Because I heard this recently too, and I also had the same reaction where I said, "What the fuck?
Yeah.
Didn't he kill JFK?"
He's like killed like multiple world leaders, like, including
Yeah. And look. We know the context. Mind control.
Yeah.
Get it. A victim, right? A complete victim who had to fight for his freedom. I'm on board with all that. You still can't really let that person run for public office.
Imagine a world where like MK Ultra was real, and a guy was like, "Yes, I was a victim of MK Ultra. It made me fucking burn down 7 Denny's or whatever the fuck." But now I'm good.
The
Now,
Manchurian candidate, but like
yeah,
good.
yeah, you were you come out and you publicly announce, "Yes, I was the Manchurian candidate, but I'm not anymore." You can totally trust me.
Hey, are we gonna spoiler for future episode? Are we gonna watch Thunderbolts, or are we just talking about the movies that are similar to the trailers for Thunderbolts?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, okay.
Thunderbolts isn't out yet, but
No.
might be worth buying tickets to Sinners and then sneaking in to Thunderbolts.
Oh yeah, shout out Sinners, which deserves $10 trillion because it looks so fucking good, and everyone is saying it's so fucking good. Like even people that are like generally lukewarm on his like Black Panther movies have been like, "This is fucking awesome," which is really cool to see.
I mean, my dad wants to see it. That's always a good barometer for me. If like my dad's talking about a movie, I'm like, that might be a sign that people want to see this shit. So,
but all right, we're here to talk about a couple things today. The 2003 Daredevil film and the 2005 Elektra film. Do people still talk about these movies?
No.
Yeah, not really.
But yeah, we're doing.
Should they?
Well, first of all, like let's just get this out of the way. Yes, as you said, we are doing like we did the fantasy filled blockbusters last season. We're skipping award season just because we didn't have fucking time to talk about shit, and we weren't in the mood.
It wasn't that interesting.
We weren't in the mood for a couple months for some reason, and we've been mulling over this one, and since it feels like we're kind of at the nadir of superhero films, at least as the juggernaut that they were, right? This has been something we were mulling over. I think we started talking about it when Aquaman 2 bombed, right? I think that was when we started.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna do the failed blockbusters, all superhero films. We had an exciting lineup, I think. This should be fun.
Yeah, I
Um,
do too.
and just that we're banking a few episodes. Just the date where we're at. Um, Today, VTuber Gargura announced she was graduating from Hololive English. So that's causing shockwaves throughout the internet. Uh,
Yeah, to
but
which I said, what did I say? You texted me that,
yeah, and
and then I was
I think
like,
you're under. I think because whenever I start rambling about VTubers, you just zone out because why would you care what I have to say? And you think graduation is a good thing. You're
yeah,
like,
I was like, do they do Fortnite
yeah, you're
dances
like,
to
and
celebrate?
then I just responded with people are emotionally devastated, which is true. People are very sad about it. She was the one. If you you know this one, she was the one that sang at the Dodgers game. Remember
Wait,
that?
what?
Remember they had a VTuber sing the national anthem or whatever, or take me out to the ball game.
What the? No, have I been in a coma?
Talked about this on the show.
Listen, it's been a rough year.
We
A
made
lot's
we
happened.
made the joke that this was like last year at some point. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
I see the picture now.
yeah.
Yes.
And we talked about that like the Dodgers came back and won after she did that, so like it got her some points, right? That
Yeah.
she's literally the biggest. I would argue probably the biggest corporate VTuber right now, and she's graduating 2 weeks from now. So uh, that doesn't seem to be a good indication that things are going smoothly over there. But what do I know? But I just wanted to date this episode for everyone to know where we're at on things.
I was just gonna say the season finale of Daredevil season 4, aka Daredevil Born Again, aired
I guess
like
I guess that's more
24 hours before this recorded.
that's more relevant.
A little bit, I would argue, just a little bit.
I guess
But
yeah. Now that I think about it,
yeah.
that's slightly more relevant. But hey, well, it's I mean, Born Again was lighting the world on fire. Like it's shameful. I didn't even notice.
I mean, it does seem pretty popular. It's just there's a huge difference from the reaction to this show than like the first two seasons of the Netflix show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think the writing was on the wall a little bit, but like, well, I'll get there. I'll explain to Matt what worked, what didn't, and what else didn't. But for Daredevil, do you remember watching the original Ben Affleck, directed by Mark Steven Johnson Daredevil?
Yes,
Like in
I
theaters?
saw
Did you
it.
rent it?
I saw it in theaters. And I was talking about this recently. I can't remember where, but 2003 is the year I start to recognize that movies can be bad. Uh, it's the movie that breaks me is Cheaper by the Dozen, directed by our current Spielberg, Sean Levy. Um, Cheaper by the Dozen.
That's the worst thing you've ever said.
Hey, he's dominating right now currently. But Cheaper by the Dozen was a movie I went and saw in theaters and was like super hyped for, and was maybe the only. How old would I have been? 2003. I'm like 9 or 10 years old. I don't know. Um, I was probably the only kid in the theater that was there for Steve Martin. uh, and yeah, and then watching it and going, "This is bad." And Daredevil has an arc for me where I see it and I'm kind of like I'm like going off the residual high of fucking Spider-Man, which was the previous year, right? Like Spider-Man at this
Hmm.
point is just dominating the culture. Um and they were really pushing this as the next Spider-Man. Like you got to see this. It's Marvel, Daredevil, go see it. And I remember watching it and being like, I don't know, that wasn't Spider Man, and being like very confused. And then by the time I watched it again on DVD, I've shifted enough to be like, this is a bad movie. Like that this is probably the first superhero movie I didn't like, I guess you could say. Um,
Hmm.
so it's a fitting that we're starting here.
Yeah. I did not watch it in theaters. I rented it from Hollywood Video,
Hell yeah.
which came with the VHS came with the music video for maybe the most famous thing about this movie at this point, Evanescence's "Bring Me to Life."
Yeah.
I think people have really grown fond of like the new metal-esque genres, the sort of like emo
No,
rock.
I will never refer to it as new metal. In my brain, this is just where my mind is. In my heart, whenever I hear this type of music, I just think Kingdom Hearts ass music.
That's incredible and accurate.
Yeah.
But I think at the time it was like, this is like embarrassing. And now people look back like very fondly on this type of music because it's so specific to the era.
Yeah.
And I completely get that. And you know what? I do too. I used to be like, here's the thing. In middle school, I did listen to Evanescence because of this movie. Right. And then as I got older, I was like a little embarrassed about that. And now I'm like, nah, that was kind of cool. Like, whatever. Like, I like it. And Amy Lee, the lead singer of Evanescence, is like really cool and progressive and apparently not an asshole, which is good.
It's good to know.
So go support Evanescence. I liked this movie. I liked it so much that I rented it like 3 times from Hollywood Video, which at the time was a big deal for me. I didn't really get the opportunity to do that. And so I was always, again, like the Evanescence thing, a little embarrassed when people get older and then you get to high school and college and people are like, yeah, that Ben Affleck Daredevil sucked. And I was like, I kind of liked it. I didn't tell anyone that, right? Until, you know, about last, like through my 20s, I would say, I was like, you know, maybe people are just wrong about this movie. You know, like maybe like I really do have to start going to bat for it. I can confirm with this recent rewatch that it's not good.
No,
it's not a good movie.
Honestly, I sat down ready to be like, I bet you I'm going to find enough here, right? To be like, man, we really don't make them like this anymore. And there is some truth to that, right? There's definitely a like, but this almost, you know, like how we lament like that we don't shoot on sets anymore and there's no like crowd shots in movies. And this has all that, but it's like, oh God, why did they bother for this? Like, you almost feel like you wish they had phoned it in more because it's so, it looks like it was shot on the volume in 2003.
Sometime fucking, oh my God, this, I'm not going to give the game, or, you know, I'll just sprinkle it in. How about this? I'll sprinkle in some of my Born Again takes, because there's that fucking problem with that show too. I swear to God, watching this movie again in such close proximity to that new season, I was like, it's the same fucking problems.
Yeah.
Just like separated. And Born Again has more modern problems as well. Don't get me wrong, right? And it looks significantly worse, which is unfortunate. But the way they compose characters against like crowd shots, I'm like, you could have done this in the green screen.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should have. I'm not lamenting that they didn't. And I'm not, you know, I'm not saying like it would have been worse or better. It's just like you could have done the same thing. They do not take advantage of like the sets at all. I will say there's the occasional very pulpy comic book composition in this movie.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, fuck, that's
But
pretty
they're also
cool.
deployed like randomly and seemingly with no motivation, right? Like it's like people complain about like when the Ang Lee Hulk does that shit, but like that movie knew when to do it better than this, right? Like,
yeah.
And
I mean, part of me was kind of hoping I'd come out swinging for this, like the Ang Lee Hulk now, but that one I loved day one. I was like, I know I'm right about that movie, you know?
Yeah. Well, that was another one where like, I mean, that's like a couple months after this in 2003. I saw both of them in theaters. And I think the Hulk one took me like a little slower just because that movie was so grim that like it took me a minute to like kind of really get it. But you know, speaking of this kind of being like feeling like Born Again, how about like that this is a movie that co-stars Jon Favreau and one of the credited producers is Kevin Feige. So it's like, it's a sort of like, it gave you all the clues, Mr. Policeman.
Kevin Feige and I think chief antagonist to certain Marvel comic book nerds, Avi Arad,
Yeah, but
who
he is bad for this era specifically. Like
mhm,
his badness hasn't extended until now. Like now, the Avi Arad badness has kind of disappeared from the superhero sphere, right? I think it's officially
yeah.
dead now, with basically the death of the Sony Spider Verse. Uh, but
Mhm.
it's yes, like he's bad in a different way, but his name, he's all over this stuff because Toy Biz buying Marvel around this time, and he kind of like oversees a lot of the film productions because they famously, part of the reason why the Marvel rights were so screwed up is they went bankrupt and they had to sell all the movie rights just to stay afloat. So
Yeah.
uh, but man, yeah, I really wanted this to be something where I'm like, oh, there's going to at least be some juice in this. And there really just isn't. There's one thing that, well, I think we both know what it is, that kind of is like, that's fun. This person knows what they're doing, but everything else is not that.
If it's can we just say it?
Yes, David Keith. No, no, fucking, no,
Yeah, I was like, wait.
Colin,
You totally caught me off guard. I was gonna say it at the same time, but I was
Colin
like,
Farrell's Bullseye is just like, he's like, he gets that he's a comic book movie villain, and is the only one they figured out how to shoot compellingly. they think they didn't.
oh, okay. Well, here, continue. But
Yeah.
no, I wasn't gonna say that.
Oh,
I
okay.
like him in this though.
I think he's the only working part of this movie. I don't think anything else works really. Um,
No, I mean for the tone this movie ends up having, which we'll talk about because this is not like the official intended product
yeah,
of Mark Steven Johnson, who did have like a vision for this. And I'm not gonna say it ever would have been a great movie, but I think it would have been a coherent one because
yeah.
I think tonally this thing's fucking all over the place. But I was gonna say Michael Clark Duncan, with very little, is fucking phenomenal. I
I
mean, he was an incredible
I have
presence
to
always.
disagree. Like
Really?
that's part of the bummer of this movie for me, is that you go Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin, and you're like, fucking, that's printing money. That sounds like
Yeah.
the greatest casting choice for this era. It's like you couldn't pick better than that, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
best choice you could possibly make. And then it feels like Michael Clark Duncan, who just oozed charisma naturally as an actor, it feels like there's a gun pointed at his head to be like, try and be as uncharismatic as humanly possible in this movie. Like you have three notes to play them as subdued as possible, and never define who your character is. And it's just like, man, what a bummer. Like this should be the great performance in the movie, and it just isn't. Like, and part of it is just that they don't know how to weave the Kingpin stuff into the narrative very well.
No, they do
Like
not.
like the writing lets everyone down, so like I can't really come at everyone and be like it's these actors' fault, but it does feel like there's a gun to Michael Clark Duncan's head being like, don't be engaging.
Mm.
So it's just,
Yeah,
you
I thought
want it,
I don't know. His presence is good enough for me.
I loved Michael Clark Duncan. He's great. Like he's such a loss to cinema, right? Like he was always great, and it's just in this, it feels like no one told him how to play this character, and he's kind of left to figure it out on his own, and he never really finds it. And that feels like a lot of people have that problem in this movie. And maybe that
Yeah.
goes with the conflicting visions going on, behind the scenes. But it feels like a lot of people are left to their own devices, and the only guy who really was like, I'm gonna be the fucking Joker of this movie, is Colin Farrell. Like just being like, all right, I'm Bullseye, I'm just a piece of shit. I get upset when I miss my target. Like he's not deep, he's not complicated. He's just way too into his one gimmick. And
Mhm.
it's like, yes, that's a comic book villain, especially of this era, right? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that's why like I single him out as being like the good part of the movie. Um, but whereas just everyone else, it's a mess. Um,
Yeah, it's bad. I think you and I are both defenders of the Ben Affleck Batman, Batfleck,
yes,
right? Like,
yeah,
I think he's fucking great. Like, kind of in hindsight, if he got better, like, or
yeah.
better received material, I think would be talking him up as like one of the best Batmans on film.
Oh,
Like, I really
100.
believe that
That will
he's
be
great.
the reevaluation in like 10 years. People will be like, the movie might not be good, but he was a great Batman. Like,
Yeah, and I like those movies, but I'm
mm,
like, God, no, we really need to be championing him as Batman. He was
yeah.
and Bruce Wayne. He's fucking great.
Mm,
Uh, I forgot like why people didn't really like him
yeah.
in this era. He is all over the place in this movie,
It's
and it's not that
so
he's incapable as an actor. I do think a lot of it is the misguided direction.
based on misguided direction, and he's in a weird spot in his career where like he doesn't really know what he is, right? Like there's that thing, like if
Hmm.
you're a movie star, sometimes you can't totally keep a finger on the pulse of like what type of actor am I, right? Like, which is something he has to keep in mind when he gives a performance. And this is an era where it's just not working. This is kind of the beginning of it, frankly, right? Um,
Hmm.
what else is he doing? Like, all right, so it's the year it's like Pearl Harbor 2001, Sum of All Fears 2002, Daredevil 2003, right? Like,
Yeah.
and those are all like very different Affleck performances, and they're all wrong, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's so I think yeah, part of it was that he didn't know, and it really took that sort of like I guess like being doing going to the directing world and then Gone Girl was like the thing that kind of got him back on track, right? Uh,
Yeah.
but um yeah, but here it's like you want to one of the main things you want to go, and I don't know if this was like a post-production decision to try and salvage this thing, but you want to be like get rid of all that voiceover. Like the voiceover is so bad. It's it's like Blade Runner theatrical cut bad, and I think really deflates. But also part of it is just they never found a compelling way to do the Daredevil blindness visually, right? I think that's something that they couldn't figure out, So they resort to over
You
explaining
know
it.
what? I I kind of like the moment when he sees the rain on Jennifer Garner's face,
Mm.
though.
No, that's probably the one good moment. But we've had you know, like here's the thing: when Bullseye's introduced, there isn't like Colin Farrell doesn't suddenly start narrating, being like, "Yeah, that's me. I'm Bullseye. I can hit any target." Like, right? He just does it, so we watch him do it. And
Hmm.
until that moment between Affleck and Jennifer Garner, the whole movie's been like show and tell constantly, which
Yeah.
feels like a mistake in a movie about a blind man. So, like, it's just him being like, yeah, that was the last thing I ever saw was that, and then I got chemicals in my eyes, and now I can't see, but now I got hyper hearing, so it's like sonar, so like I can kind of see things, and look, that's how it works. It looks like this. It looks
Yeah.
like
And
it looks like Neo seeing the code in the Matrix for some reason, because that's the only thing
um
we could think to copy. Uh, but
I mean, this is that era of blockbusters wanting to do Matrix still, and
yeah,
it's in Elektra too. We'll get to that in a second, which we'll talk about probably less than this movie. But like it's from the way he sees with the Daredevil vision to like the flippy action, like yeah, that's Spider-Man, but like I mean, even the outfit, like the leatheriness of it.
yeah,
Like it's the leather coats again. I mean, fucking Bullseye with the leather coat.
Now
You
you can
know.
tell this is one of those movies where you can tell they started developing it post Matrix, right? And
Mhm.
then the development lasted post 9/11, post Spider-Man, and then now it's like trying to be both the Matrix and Spider-Man, right?
Mhm.
It's just no, it doesn't work like that.
And plug in like Mark Steven Johnson's favorite elements of Daredevil comics,
Yeah,
which is too much. It's not trying to be born again. Haha. It's but it's also like got like the Elektra saga stuff in there. But then there's also like a Karen Page cameo essentially. Then there's also
yeah,
Foggy, who kind of doesn't need to be in the movie. Like, what's the movie like about? You know, people don't know.
yeah.
This is people's big screen introduction to Daredevil, and
Yeah, this
there's
really
nothing special to him here.
it really just assumes you know everything about Daredevil from the start, like which is a mistake. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Daredevil was a wildly popular comic, but was still kind of a niche character at the time, right? Like,
Yeah,
it was sort of like Gen X, I think, really knew Daredevil, but that didn't translate to boomers and then millennials, you know.
yeah,
But yeah, it's like they really could have stopped and been like, hey, maybe we should just see what Daredevil's like at his office a little bit more. But like, yeah, it does feel like Mark Steven Johnson was a little too in love with it really, honestly, it really reminded me of BVS in a lot of ways. In that movie makes a lot of assumptions that people know the material it's riffing on, and a lot of people don't. And then it also understands that certain images are very compelling. Like BBS directly lifts imagery from the Dark Knight Returns comic book, right? Another Frank Miller work. And this
mm-hmm.
movie lifts a lot of images directly from the Born Again comic and then also the Frank Miller stuff. Like it gets that like there is an inherently compelling image of Daredevil in the devil costume bleeding on the cross, right? Like that's lifted straight from Born Again, correct?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and
That and that's like yeah, it's an incredible image in the movie. The movie is like
no,
is
but
literally like
it's
littered with
but here's
them.
the thing. It's not good in the movie though, because it it doesn't know why the image is good, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it knows enough, and this is Zack Snyder's thing too, frankly. Zack Snyder understands that certain images are compelling. He just doesn't always understand why they're compelling, right? So it's why you
Yeah,
get movies
yeah,
that are stuffed with really grabbing images that then you can walk away from his movie being like that's an endorsement of fascism, or it's actually a brilliant work of satire, and it's neither of those things because Zack Snyder doesn't think about those things. He just understands that the image itself is compelling, which I think what part of the reason why people rally behind Snyder is that we are now dominated by a complete lack of image driven superhero movies, right? That no one seems to be thinking
mm-hmm.
about these things. And so when Snyder was around actually thinking about that, it was like a good antidote to it. And I was kind of hoping for a little bit of that from Daredevil, and like there's just not a ton here.
Because like if you don't know who Daredevil is, like you come away from the movie. It's the problem I bring about all the time now with like the MCU stuff. You know, I watch 3 Spider-Man movies. I'm like, I barely know who this guy is. I watch Shang-Chi and I'm like, I don't know what this character wants. I don't know what Matt Murdock wants at the end of this by the end of this movie. I
Yep.
don't know who he is, you know. They try some interesting stuff there. They do the Tim Burton Batman thing where they tie in the arch nemesis to his origin, you know,
Yeah.
like kill the parent thing. Makes sense if you're streamlining a narrative for a movie. I'm fine with that. But it's also like that's more of a revenge tale than anything,
Yeah.
you
It's
know.
like
And also Daredevil kills people in the director's cut of this.
he, you know what? He killed people in the version I watched on Disney Plus too. Not as many,
Does
but
he leave the guy on the train tracks on Disney
yes,
Plus?
yes, that's on the Disney
Yeah,
Plus version.
that's the director's cut,
Oh,
which is
okay.
like crazy.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's what's weird is then like, yeah. See, you establish that Daredevil murders people, and then he gets to Michael Clark Duncan. And Michael Clark Duncan's like, "I killed your father," and he's like, I'm gonna let you go. It's like you're the one I'm not gonna, because I guess that's my art. It's like I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
think it is. Um, but
Oh
uh,
God, you know what? I figured out. Mark Steven Johnson basically just made like a fan film,
oh, it's
right?
yeah.
With
There are so
that's
many.
a very diluted way of explaining the actual process of movie making, but same problems.
There's tons of references to like Mark Miller and Frank Miller and like Joe Quesada. One of the characters is named Quesada.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
I was gonna bring that up too.
Kevin Smith is named Kirby after Jack Kirby, and I don't even think Jack Kirby had anything to do with Daredevil. Like Daredevil might be one of the few Marvel characters Jack Kirby had nothing to do with. So like it's very yeah, it's there's so many winks and nods in this that like now it's groan inducing. Maybe in 2003 it's representative of like how much comic book fans were starving, that we were just like, oh yeah, they know the thing, right? Like, but fuck, I kind of like I hated the constant winks to shit in this movie.
Yeah.
Um
It was a little annoying. I don't hate this movie, but I also don't like I just don't like it.
yeah.
Like there's really nothing here apart from like you could this crew probably could have made a good movie if like maybe there was a stronger script. I'll even give credit like if it's tonally inconsistent like through the direction. I bet if you hired like a fucking Aaron Sorkin or something like that to write a Daredevil movie and he directed it, I bet it wouldn't be that bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't come together. Uh, it was just kind of a bummer.
Yeah, maybe you could have
Especially having just
picked one storyline to do. That might have helped.
yeah.
You,
It's too much.
you want to do? Do you want
I
to
mean
do
the
Daredevil's origin? Do you want to do the Kingpin? Do you want to do Bullseye? Do you want to do Elektra? What do you want to do? And
yeah. You know what? Rewatching the original Netflix show, the 3 seasons, right? One very good that ends on kind of a whimper, one that's very flawed but like is consistently entertaining, and then the third one, which is the greatest fucking thing ever. The first 2 episodes of the show cover the origin and flashbacks, and it's the best stuff in the first season. Like it's so good. I got like emotional watching him carry the kid out of the hallway after like the now frankly kind of iconic hallway fight scene, which yes, it's just the old boy thing. I know, but like it's well done in in the sequence, and
look,
it's an emotional culmination.
that everyone does that thing where it's like it's just old boy, it's just Punisher Warzone, right? And it's like, yeah, steal from
Mm.
stuff that works. I don't care. Like if it
Yeah,
works, do it. You fuck. But I guess I like season one of Daredevil more than most people because I don't really feel like it is the one where like the last episode is kind of a whimper, but I think it's pretty good
yeah, that's it.
up until then. Like it's just it was felt more like they didn't know how to end it, right? Like
Yeah. That's the big problem of that. And then people don't really talk about this. I remember when they announced they were doing all those shows, they were like, we're spending $250 million on Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist before doing the Defenders. And it's like, wow, that's awesome. Wait, for how many shows? Like, that's a lot of money in reality. In television, for all those shows, like that's not that much money. Like, I kind of think they just ran out of money too for that last episode.
yeah.
Like, they do this thing where like the Kingpin's trying to escape. They they're really just kind of trying to end it at that point. And then he's got like the SWAT team with him, and then it's like, oh, Daredevil's gonna have to fight through like a SWAT team to get to Kingpin. Holy shit! And it's like, no, they crash, and only the Kingpin gets out of the car. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, and they're gonna fight in an alley, and he's gonna hit him a couple times. And it's like, oh, all right.
I had to make up for it
I
by
guess that's how we're gonna
D'Onofrio
end.
does give one of the best Kingpin monologues though, like before that scene happens. It's like probably the one thing
Oh no,
they like salvage that ending of season one.
yeah. No, he's great.
Mm.
Season 2, which has zombie ninjas thrown in against
Yeah.
the Punisher stuff, which talk about tonal inconsistencies.
Well, here's the weird thing. Do you think Elektra is the problem of both things? Like not to blame like the actresses, like
Yeah, then no, let's blame women. Yeah, that's
Eh,
a really good
well,
look in 2025.
I'm just saying, like, there is something where Daredevil season 2 started, and you're like, man, this is like a massive step up already, right? Like, and they're doing the
Hmm.
Punisher so well. I actually think you could pull off the Punisher this well in a way that wasn't like satirical, right? And
Hmm.
it's like, wow, this is really working. And then once Elektra shows up, and it's like, oh, we got to deal with like all this like the hand shit that's gonna help set up the Defenders. It's like that's the stuff that doesn't work, at least not as
Yeah.
much. And
No, I agree. I think season two's still entertaining to the end, but
mm,
it's also like, how did we get there? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like they're fighting zombies on the rooftop and the Punisher's blowing heads off,
mm,
and then I was like, we started with like a massive government conspiracy
yeah,
of like covert black ops and police brutality and covering up evidence, and now we're fighting ninja zombies,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
but here's the thing: I was giving you a hard time, but I think you're totally right. I think Elektra is an incredibly difficult character to write for. So I don't know. I have no Elektra ideas in my brain. I don't know how to approach that character. I think even as like a nerdy fan, I'm like, oh god, it'd be so much fun to write Daredevil. I don't know what you do with Elektra. I
yeah,
don't know what you do with the hand nowadays either. It's just kind of like often Orientalist bullshit, which we know from the Netflix series. There's those horror stories about Jeff Loeb just being racist to Asian people,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
unfortunate.
It's
So I don't know what you do, and I do think although Elodie Young is very good as Elektra, I like her a lot.
yeah. She gave a
Um,
good performance. It's just like but again, it's like they couldn't thread that needle very well, in my opinion. And yeah, I do think it's something where, but also like, Lecter has that problem where she was basically introduced to be killed off, right? Like,
yeah.
she was how she's only in like 15 issues of Daredevil, like, in the Frank Miller run. Like, it's not that many. Um,
No, but then Frank Miller and Lynn Varley publish Elektra Lives Again, which is like, that's a
but
mini
that's
run.
but that's a little bit later. That he does that Electra Assassin, which is like isn't that like a prequel or something? Like, uh, there's a
I think it is an
Electra has like
I,
such a weird cultural thing because she's such a like unfortunate, like, kind of just sexy character, right? Like, there's a lot
mm,
about her that's just designed to be sexy and then get killed off, you know? Um,
yeah.
and she's there to be like a bit of a foil, to, and it's also it's Daredevil riffing on, oh God, what's her name? The character from The Spirit. Um,
I
uh,
don't know the spirit that well,
uh,
so you're on your own here, buddy.
Sans Serif, who's
Oh,
the
okay.
femme fatale from The Spirit, which, like, Will Eisner's The Spirit is like Frank Miller cites that as like a massive, influence on his work. And then Frank Miller does the Spirit movie, which neither of
Yeah.
us brought up, by the way, to do as a failed episode, as a failed superhero. Uh,
I just thought of that too. I was like, oh shit, do we have to do that?
You know what? When If you want to date me a little bit in terms of like my age, I was really hyped for that Spirit movie, and I still had a MySpace page, and like kind of the last thing I did with it was like because you could basically personalize it. I personalized it to be like all Spirit stuff for that movie. Um, and then like it just stayed that way for years because I kind of stopped using, MySpace around that time. So like 5 years after that movie, I still had like a bunch of weird fucking Spirit gifs on my MySpace page. Um, but hey,
Wow.
yeah.
Different world.
So yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be like Elektra's not a deep character because I feel like it's one of those things where someone somewhere's definitely written a compelling Elektra story, right? Someone like I just don't know it, you know. Um, You might. Do you know? Can you think of one off the top of
Actually,
your head?
yes, Chip Zdarsky's recent run on Daredevil.
Okay.
Which I believe he took a little bit of a break and then like goes back and does like this other, I forget which one comes first. I only read it like a couple years back. Did I read it last year? It might have been just last year. Time is irrelevant now. Um but he ties in Elektra to his Daredevil run. Did I tell you about this one?
I have no memory if you did.
Okay, Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run recently starts with Daredevil accidentally killing a guy, right? And he's like, Fisk is behind
Yeah.
this. He must be trying to frame me. And then Fisk is like, man, I wish I thought of that, you know? And it's like, oh, Matt Murdock just accidentally, manslaughter. He committed manslaughter. I think that's the term. I'm not
Yeah.
a lawyer.
Murdoch is.
But he took a man's life on accident, but he took a man's life. And then he turns himself in to go to prison because it's Marvel Comics as Daredevil, right? So he will not be unmasked, but he will pay for his crimes in prison, leaving the outside mantle of Daredevil to Elektra, who was vowed to not kill people in his honor.
Okay.
Which is
I
like,
do remember this now.
yeah. And so Daredevil's like trying to fight institutional corruption in the prison system and like reform it and shit like that from the inside, while Elektra's on the outside. And then like it's like kind of a two-hander at a certain point, because then it ends up, going to like, it's always got to end with like the hand stuff, which is a little less interesting, but they make it more like this religious thing about like Matt basically having to face the devil, if I remember correctly. Well, it's awesome. I'll just wrap up by saying like Matt goes to hell to save Foggy and a bunch of other people. He takes over the hand at one point to fight like the fist, or I forget which. All the ninja stuff. I gotta be honest, is my least favorite Daredevil stuff. I like his stuff with the Kingpin.
Are we kind of just past ninjas, like, or like
slightly?
what?
I think. I think they just can't be like en masse,
Yeah, I guess it's a thing of like they can't be like this
this faceless entity.
Yeah, this faceless homunculus. Like,
yeah, which again I think Zdarsky handles much better than all of his contemporaries, frankly. And the run ends with like Matt, somehow making it out of hell after freeing his dead friend Foggy, and he ends as a priest and he becomes Father Matt, right? He has no memory of what's happened to him, and Elektra, continues to let him live.
Okay.
And then it's a very interesting attempt at like a somewhat finale to the Daredevil arc.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a really great run. I think there's 2 omnibuses available of it now, because he's got 2 runs. One's from like 2019 to 2021, and then 2022, 23, I think. So it's a recent run, and it made me think: is Daredevil like one of the best comic book characters? Like,
I think it says something that for Daredevil in terms of strength, that because there have been so many iterations of him, right? That he stands a little bit taller than other superheroes, right? Like, honestly, this is what's weird. Daredevil is frankly, especially in this era, a much more interesting superhero than, say, like Iron Man, right? Like, off the top of your head, pre 2003, what are the like definitive Iron Man runs?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Demon in a Bottle. That's it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's like Demon in a Bottle, but like who wrote that? Can you even say who wrote it off the top of your head?
No, I wasn't an Iron Man guy before 2008.
Well, no, but like, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's there. I don't think like, and I'm not saying there aren't like everyone's fans of someone. I love obscure characters as much as anyone else. It's just I don't think there was that as many definitive runs. Whereas like Daredevil, you can go like, all right, name some people who wrote for Daredevil. And it's like, well, it's like Frank Miller, right? Like there's like Mark Miller wrote for him at one point, Joe Quesada, like Kevin Smith.
Right? Mark Waid, I think, had the other recent contemporary run that was considered great. I would call it great.
Yeah. So like there's an element of he's had multiple people. Brian Michael Bendis,
Oh God,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
yeah, like there's and Ed Brubaker. Now that I
yeah.
think about it,
We
Brubaker's
just
doing
listed
this around the
like
time.
a lot of the
Yeah,
modern heavy hitters. Like,
yeah, and also like not one of those things where it's like, oh, did you know they did a run on this character? And you're like, oh, was it like, how was it? And it's like, it's not their best work. It's like some of these guys, it's among their best work. Like this is like the Daredevil is among Brian Michael Bendis's best stuff. You know,
mm-hmm,
his run on Daredevil. And it's like Frank Miller. You could argue Frank Miller's best writing was his Daredevil writing,
mm-hmm.
right? Like you could make that argument. And yeah, it's interesting that Daredevil kind of faded for a little bit. Partly probably because of this movie kind of bombing, right? Like it didn't bomb, but it definitely didn't land with people.
No, I think it like
And
broke even barely, and then
mm,
people were like, we can't do sequels to
mm,
this.
yeah, but it's definitely one of the more like consistently good runs. And you can also kind of recommend like, oh, you want to get into Daredevil? Just go buy the first Frank Miller omnibus, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a good introduction. And it's a good introduction to the Marvel universe too. Like it's not you don't there's not it's not that complicated. You don't need to know that much lore. You get what you need out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting as a character. And then it's just weird that like this movie again cribs from like all the stuff we just brought up and just doesn't do it very well, I guess, is the
Yeah.
point.
And I
Yeah.
guess maybe part of the reason why like I enjoyed it was like, I was Catholic growing up until like, the last decade I shifted away from religion, but like
Mm,
I'm also surprised when I get into comics, I'm not more drawn to Daredevil. I guess I just
mm,
didn't think about these things in the same way. I'm not looking for that sort of like 3D character dynamic.
mm.
But now I'm like, fuck, like, of course Daredevil's like in my top five comic book, or at least superhero characters, like a blind lawyer, right? Justice is blind, who dresses up like the devil and he's Catholic, but also lawyer vigilante. Like, it's just this great juxtaposition of character and idea, and like just those three like descriptions alone I just gave, you
Yeah.
have like five ideas of where you can go with that right now. Like everyone can like take that character some direction that's exciting and new. And I asked you before we started recording, like are these characters, or are all these characters that get movies like actually that interesting? And I think Daredevil definitely is that interesting. Like I think he's a character that we will keep coming back to long
Oh,
after the superhero movies die.
it's one of those sad things though, where like, yes, he is interesting, and he's probably the more interesting Marvel characters probably suffer more from being tied to the shared universe,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's like the shared universe thing only kind of elevates the weaker characters,
Yeah.
frankly. Um, but because at a certain point you're like, well, there's so much going on, you don't need to make them that complicated. And I feel like if I insult any character though, people are going to point to, well, this issue, this character is actually really interesting, and I'm like, yeah, all right, sure,
Yeah.
but
I mean, you're talking to the Ragman fan over here, like the one guy who's
I
like, no,
mean,
Ragman could be a
yeah,
cool movie, but it's also like, if you don't get a Ragman movie, I'll be fine. It's like,
yeah,
there's not too much there. But yeah, it's hard. So before we segue into Elektra a little bit, because a spoiler alert, I don't know that there's not much talk about there. I mentioned to you that before the Daredevil rights went back to Marvel and then got sold to Netflix for these TV shows, Joe Carnahan pitched a Daredevil trilogy with a sizzle reel to Fox, which he eventually shared online, I think, or it got leaked online, something. This is like 2012, 2013. And Joe Carnahan's idea, there's a quote back from comicbookmovie.com back in the day,
Mhm.
Where when he was asked about it, he said, "What people don't realize about the Daredevil project is that the producers of the film got to me very late. So it's kind of, end of days. Fox is losing the rights to all these Marvel shit, at least Daredevil, and they're like, we need something to get the movie off the ground to keep the rights. And they had a script that he's like, yeah, the action was wonderful, but the story didn't have any bite. It's for Joe Carnahan is being very polite. He's saying the script wasn't good, but you could have made like a kick-ass action movie from it, right? And he would have done period piece movies called Daredevil 73, Daredevil 79, and Daredevil 85. And each one of those movies was going to have like a thematic arc tied to like the music of the time. So the first one would be like classic rock, second one would have been punk rock, third film would have been new wave. And it doesn't sound like it was they had the story down, right? It doesn't sound like they even broke story for a trilogy, but I thought it was kind of interesting that he found like a tonal arc to explore Daredevil that way,
That's definitely interesting. Now, hold on, but like one thing I want to ask about, this is before what were the details of, I can't remember this off the top of my head, of them getting the Daredevil rights back. Like what was that deal again?
I actually don't know the ins and outs of that. I think it was just that like Daredevil and Elektra, they're separate from the X-Men rights, right?
Yeah.
So,
but
all those
think
characters.
There was a.
Well, here, go ahead.
I think that if I remember correctly, though, there was a deal made, like that they agreed to something. Like Marvel gave Fox something in exchange for Daredevil, but I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. And now it just doesn't matter because like now they just own Fox.
Yeah, yeah. Now it definitely doesn't matter. Yeah, I think Drew Goddard even pitched a Daredevil movie back before they started announcing the TV shows. And Drew Goddard, of course, was the original showrunner and wrote the first 2 episodes. Yeah, 2 episodes, and which is maybe why those are a little stronger than the rest of the very good season of television. I'm not dismaying that. Just Drew Goddard, sort of one of my boys secretly, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. They didn't really. They never figured out a game plan for more movies, and I'm not gonna say it's a shame because I like the show a lot. But it's just interesting that like when all this stuff started blowing up, when superhero movies were making like $500 million at the box office at least, they were never like, oh, we got to get another Daredevil movie out,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, what I'm looking at right now is that I guess whatever rights deal they had reverted back in 2012. So, like, that's the year of Avengers. So I guess Fox just didn't have time to get anything into the pipeline in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I bet you if they had an extra 2 years, they would have done something to hold on to those rights. But yeah, so that seems like what happened around that time. This is also just that interesting era where like 20th Century Fox's total mishandling of having rights to characters like Daredevil and the X-Men, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't remember whoever the head of 20th Century Fox was at the time, like famously hated superheroes.
Tom Rothman. Do you know what he is in charge of now?
Oh no, what is he in charge of now?
Sony Pictures.
Oh shit! That makes a lot of sense.
Dots, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately,
who I'm sure is a great guy, and I would love to work with him financially.
I'm sure. Yeah, no, I have nothing. It's not about whether or not he hates superheroes or not. It's just like, but if you don't like him, maybe give him to someone who does. I don't mean like give up the rights. I just mean like let them take point.
Yeah,
because it's very clear he's trying to mold superheroes into something they aren't, and it's not working, and it never did. I think, is he the one with the quote where they asked him about like X-Men: The Last Stand? They're like, well, what's in this one for the fans? And he's like, why would we put anything in this for the fans? We already got their money.
That might be him. Yeah.
I think that's his quote.
That might be
which
him.
I think people might like that quote now that we're kind of in like this backlash to nerd culture, but like that attitude explains a lot of the really just mishandling of characters like this. I mean, Fox totally could have carved out their own MCU with just the X-Men characters alone, right?
Hmm.
And they never figured it out. Like they never figured it out. They never made it work.
Yeah, I
And it's
guess
kind of embarrassing when you think about it.
it is. And they would have beaten Marvel Studios to the crossover punch if he didn't like squash it. I guess what's that guy? Zach Stentz, the writer of First Class, earlier than First
Uh-huh.
Class, I think he was brought in to write a Fantastic Four versus X-Men movie. And obviously no one cares
Yeah.
about those Fantastic Four movies because they're also bad. But like, they were like trying, like clearly people were trying to make something of these franchises, uh, and then we're told don't do that, or like they killed them in the crib. They killed those ideas in the crib.
Yeah, it's a total mishandling of the characters and the IP. Arguably very similar to Hololive's mishandling of the Gargura situation.
Wake me up inside. I can't wake up. Wake me up inside. Save me. Call my name and save me from the dark. Wake me up with my blood to run. I can't wake up before I come undone. Save me from the nothing I've become.
So I'm not sure what that like means for the VTuber industry as a whole, but I don't think it bodes well.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, you want to talk about Elektra?
I gotta be honest, a little bit, because I still don't like this movie, but I think it's a consistently better looking movie than Daredevil, with exceptions. I gotta say stuff with exceptions, because there's some shit in here where I'm like, oh man, that is some dated visual effects happening in front of my eyes.
But I think both of these movies had that. There was a lot of really bad digital doubles in Daredevil.
Oh god, yeah.
That just
I think I
looked like
posted it on
ass.
Letterboxd before we even agreed to do this, because I went back to watch. I saw the first episode of Born Again when it aired initially, and then I went back to clips of the movie, because the digital doubles in that first episode of Daredevil, which aren't really in the rest of the show, by the way, they're worse than the Daredevil movie. Like, it's bad. Like,
Yeah, well, that's why it felt weird rewatching Daredevil, where it's like it feels like we've come full circle back to Daredevil in terms of the badness. Like I see everything wrong with modern superheroes in this 2003 Daredevil movie, as opposed to something that was like would be like, oh, an artifact of its time. It's kind of fun. Like I
mhm.
see everything wrong in this movie.
Yeah, and
You know what? We should probably talk about the movie a little bit more, just because we didn't even talk about Elektra in the movie Daredevil itself, which is one of the big problems with Daredevil.
yeah, but
Uh,
Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck hook up because of it. So
yeah, that worked out real well for everyone
okay.
involved.
Well,
But
listen. Jennifer Garner seems very happy.
yeah, have I remember Jennifer Garner was like one of my early like on-screen crushes.
Oh yeah, no.
Uh,
I never got to see this movie because no one in my life gave a
no,
shit to take me to see it. But I saw those commercials. I was interested.
no, guess what? Has nothing to do with her playing Elektra.
No, yeah, it's just it's a nice fitting outfit.
No, it is. I'm not telling you. Nothing about Elektra. Her playing Elektra was what did it.
Hmm.
That was not it ever. I was a big fan of the movie 13 Going on 30.
That's incredible. Which is a good movie, by the way.
Oh, great movie.
Yeah.
Probably the best of the like big ripoffs to come down the pipe.
Yeah.
I can't think of too many better ones. And maybe part of it is that the romantic lead in it was played by Mark Ruffalo, and his name was Matt in the
There you
movie.
go.
So that maybe started like getting some gears turning in my head. And I mean, I could be like Mark Ruffalo in this movie by the time I hit 30, and oh boy, did that not happen. But when I was a kid, I could at least think that. Uh, so, but yeah, like I'm like no joke. There's no part of me that's like I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm even now I'm kind of like I, I think the Elektra outfit looks better in the Elektra movie, frankly.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm also there's not a part of me that's like hell yeah, Elektra looks so hot. Actually, the Elektra I don't think Elektra does it for me. Which might be that might be my most controversial Elektra take because she's like a parody of what nerds find sexy, right?
I mean, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Jennifer Garner is
mm,
beautiful. I don't, again, like I've said, I don't really respond to the character of Elektra. So even like in
yeah,
the nerd horniness sphere as a teenager and as a child,
there
I
is
was like
that.
not into that.
Who was that other guy? Not Joe Quesada, but the other guy who was running Marvel around that time. Oh God, I can't remember his name. Um, but he had some quote. There was a really weird time where like when Joe Quesada took over, they kind of they did that thing where like they took over and they were like, yeah, we kind of fuck comic book nerds, right? Like there was like a weird attitude like that initially when they took over. I don't really know how to explain it. But whoever the guy was, Bill, uh, Bill Jimenez. I don't know how to.
Bill
I don't think I'm
Jimenez.
pronouncing. Yes, I'm probably mispronouncing it. He had some quote where he's like, he said something. I'm trying to remember what it was because I'm going to fuck it up. But he said something along the lines
Or is it Phil
of,
Jimenez? Sorry.
uh, he said something along the lines of like, some of our fans, a date with Daredevil is a date with Elektra is the closest they'll ever get to a real woman, or something like that. Um, so
That's strange.
shows you where, yeah, shows you where the mentality was around this time. 'Cause he basically got forced out of Marvel at a certain point. Um, like pissed off, famously pissed off Grant Morrison so much that Grant Morrison like straight up jumped ship to DC and didn't tell Marvel.
Oh,
Uh,
good for them.
yeah, that was like a whole thing that happened.
Yeah.
Uh,
They're
but
writing for the big two right now. They said. Did you see that?
uh,
Grant
Grant
Morrison.
Morrison,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what are they doing?
They haven't said what, but they just said they didn't think they'd ever be writing this, and they're very excited to start talking about it. So
Okay,
yeah,
for Marvel or for DC?
they just said one of the big two.
Okay,
Yeah, so like
the
they're probably
one,
just started working on it, but that's exciting.
yeah, the one that they always talked about for Marvel was they wanted to do Silver Surfer, and I would really love their take on Silver Surfer. Um, but
Oh, that would be something.
well, yeah, I guess Morrison's take was to bring it back to like Kirby's initial intentions, because Stanley kind of changed Silver Surfer into more of a Christ-like figure.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that would be interesting. But yeah, because Grant Morrison, they keep doing that thing where they're like, "I'm done with superheroes forever," and then they come back.
Yeah.
So, uh, God bless them, but
Yeah.
that seems to happen a few times. But we just got to talk again with the fucking how bad this movie is. Daredevil, I'm talking about
Yeah.
that. Elektra is like Elektra for maybe 5 minutes.
Yep.
Like, what is that? That's such a bad. Like, how do you let that? How does that get through?
I don't
You
know.
know?
I have no idea. You know what was like shockingly bad? Like I always knew it was a little like cringe, even when I liked the movie. That playground fight scene,
Oh God,
which
that's
is
yeah. I
like
guess that's
they're totally trying to do like this is when like Hong Kong action's getting ripped off in Hollywood a lot, right? Like the wire work and
yeah.
shit, which I generally love seeing pop up in
Mm,
movies over here, and I do miss
yeah.
it. But like, holy fuck, dude, it's like they're trying to do like this romantic meet cute thing, and I know we were supposed to
And
be
it's
done talking
just
about the movie
awful.
already, but it's so bad, and Ben Affleck's Daredevil's basically harassing her into a fight, and they turn
I
it
know
into a
it's not romantic or cute at all.
no.
Like the
It is
initial
straight up
like
harassment.
yeah, the initial like he uses his blindness to try and like hit on her, right? Is kind of like okay, that's like post Gen X humor, right? Like
Hmm.
that's all right. But then he's like, yeah, he's like harassing and stalking her.
Yeah,
And then
he
they get into a
grabs her by the
physical
hand and be like, "Hey, we're not done." It's like, whoa,
and
dude.
and she reacts like you don't get to touch me, in the tone where, like, if someone said that to me, I'd be like, oh, you've been through something and I've made a huge mistake even thinking I could, like, put a hand on your shoulder or something, right?
Mm.
Like, that, like, this is someone who's, like, got problems and he's like, come on, what's the problem? We're just touching. And it's like, dude. And yeah, and then all the action in this feels like it's in slow motion, frankly. Um, there's a lot of it occasionally gets stylized, but it mostly feels like people moving back and forth in slow motion, where it feels like they choreographed it and then didn't know how to shoot it.
Mm.
Um, it's post Matrix, post Crouching Tiger, where uh, America's like, we want to do martial arts in movies, but we still kind of hate Asians, so we're not going to do it well enough, and no one knows how to actually shoot it, and we're not going to hire any of those guys who know what they're doing, and if we do, we aren't going to trust them to do it. So, um, Chow Yun-Fat be in Pirates of the Caribbean 3 and do nothing.
Listen, it's not the highlight of that movie.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Yeah. But yeah, Jennifer Garner as Elektra Nachos, which I was convinced was nachos for like 5 years of my life. I'm sorry.
Mm.
Um, yeah, she kind of doesn't need to be in that Daredevil movie, and it's really weird that like so much of the movie is about, or at least attempts to be about their relationship. And I think at the end of the movie, he even says like to Kingpin, "You took the only two people I ever loved," and I was like, okay, well, one, that's very brief, the moments you've had with her. Two, Foggy's your best friend. You can like, I know it's not like cool to say you love your guy friends, but like, come on.
Yeah, I guess that's 2003. You can't admit you love your best friend.
Yeah.
But I guess that's one thing the Daredevil show really does have up on this, is that like their relationships Matt Murdock has with his coworkers is a lot better and believable and helps humanize him.
Yeah, it's great.
But,
it would be really fucking stupid to try to do a show without them and then retroactively retrofit them into the show only to kill one of them off in the first 10 minutes of the season.
Oh, who dies?
Oh, you don't know?
I have no idea. I don't care.
No, they killed Foggy.
Oh, that's a shame. What the hell?
It's a fucking shame. It's because people were like, oh, he like hurt like the show because he's so annoying and insecure, and it's like I think it's like fine to have a character be that. It's clearly like intentional. It's not like an accident.
If you've ever said that, you shouldn't be allowed anywhere near anything fun or cool ever.
You hear that, Samuel L. Jackson?
You will ruin it just like by like osmosis. Ugh.
That wasn't a joke, by the way. Do you know Samuel L. Jackson tweeted that?
He doesn't like Foggy Nelson?
Yeah, that he was like, man, like, he loved Daredevil, but he doesn't want him back in the next season or something like that. Like he wanted him to be killed off or something.
That's wild.
That was wild. Whatever. It was post Age of Ultron. I'm sure he was stressed.
Yeah. Well, all right, can I just ask though, because they also, Kingpin straight up got shot at the end of the Hawkeye show and he's back. So, like, Foggy will come back as a zombie or something.
No, here's the thing. People have called this...
They'll do Marvel zombies and he'll be Patient Zero.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So, in the Nelson Murdoch Page, right? That's the name of their firm that they start at the end of season 3 and then have for 10 minutes in the new show. Go fuck yourselves. What fucking bullshit. The address is the same number as an issue of the comic that they use where Foggy fakes his death and goes into hiding to uncover like a Kingpin conspiracy, which is the plot of the show. So they didn't do that. They didn't announce that yet. And I'm sure it was just because, you know, the reshooting of the season was
such a
job.
last minute. It was just such a last minute thing. So yeah, I bet you he'll pop up.
Also because people didn't like that. People didn't like that decision.
No. I bet you'll pop up like Gene Parmesan on Arrested Development.
Yeah.
You're like, I faked my death.
Yeah, because usually I'm the guy who's like, just fucking commit to something, which the show has problems with already in other avenues, but I'm like, no, that was a genuine error. You made a mistake. Yeah. Fix that.
And Ben Urich getting killed in Daredevil was kind of the mistake that show made.
Yeah.
That was like the one really like big fumble they had.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. Season 1 has Ben Urich getting killed off, which is like shocking in the moment, but then you go through the rest of the show and you're like, I probably you need to fill that void with something. And season 3 ends up working, but fuck, man, that was a mistake. Yeah, that was too much too soon.
I guess we gotta talk about Joey Pants' Ben Urich here.
Oh yeah. Hey, I don't remember this, but in the comic, does Ben Urich have a niece?
Probably.
Okay. Well, his niece is a character in the show, and she's like a social media journalist. And every character in this season, every new character that they added just for this new show, is basically like one-dimensional. I like some, I dislike most, but they have like no value besides like they're here for this, right? She's the one character that I'm like, there you go. That's your fucking story right there. That's the narrative engine to explore all these different avenues. Very well done.
Can I ask, what is the plot of Born Again? Like the show?
So I'll spoilers for people that do care, that are listening to this, but not for you, because I know you don't care, rightfully so.
Yeah.
The Born Again title is irrelevant. That's just for fans to know the show's back, right?
Yeah. I figured that.
Okay. So the show, this is important context for why I have to break down the show's problem really quick, and then I'll tell you like the overall plot once you realize what it is. The show is broken up between the salvage job, right? And then a string of episodic episodes that are, I'll say they attempt and don't really work to slowly build into an overarching season plot. And then you get to the end of the season, you realize, oh, this is about Kingpin, who is now mayor, right? They don't explain how. Because they weren't going to tie it into anything. They were just going to jump to that, right? Which is like, why would you do that? You don't get to play that card.
Unfortunately, it does feel like we would elect Kingpin mayor in this day and age.
Here's the thing. I am cool with all of that. I'm totally cool with all of that. The show's problems are always like they pick and choose what they wanted, right? And then they had to like, everyone knows. We already talked about that. But I'm constantly asking like, okay, well, Foggy was like gonna maybe get married to Marcy at one point. Where's Marcy? Where's Sister Maggie? That was such an essential part of that third season, and then like it's weird that character's not there. Where's Foggy's friend in the police force, Brett Mahoney? Like they picked what they thought was cool and exciting and superficial and aesthetic, like Fasimil, right? They weren't really interested in the character stuff, which is what I really liked about the show.
It's so baffling. Like, part of what's baffling about Born Again to me is just that, like, it's not like Daredevil was a show that didn't work, right?
Yeah.
Like, it had 3 seasons and people liked them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we're some of the more harsher people on it, but the average person is like, no, the Daredevil show ruled. Like, people loved that Daredevil show.
Mm-hmm.
People loved Jessica Jones. People liked Luke Cage, and then Iron Fist was there. But, it was successful, so it really feels like bring that back. People like that. And then I would also understand if they were like, okay, we don't want to just do the same thing again, but let's take like a wild pivot with it, a la Better Call Saul or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like but it doesn't sound like they did that at all.
No.
It's just, what if we made Daredevil like everything else, which, that to me, that's baffling. I just don't get that especially at a time when it's very clear that the Marvel formula isn't working, that it is not, there isn't that return on investment the way there was, and it feels like Disney Plus is an arena where you could get a little bit more experimental. I don't know, something like WandaVision. I mean, I have problems with that show, but it was at least trying things.
It was totally making swings. It was doing big swings minus like again the over. It has this exact opposite problem as Daredevil actually, where the overarching story you're like this kind of sucks, and then
Yeah.
I'll jump to the plot before I get into more complaints and praises because there's stuff I liked and I think works. You realize Kingpin, obviously isn't trying to go down the straight and narrow. The overall plot is episodic, but it's revealed that Kingpin is trying to basically build like a city state, which is a cool premise.
That is actually, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Although now I'm thinking like, is this what conservatives think sanctuary cities are?
This is stuff I like in the show. Um, it's never like a perfect 1-to-1 comparison, and I don't think it should be. But like, there's like those cops that were like the Punisher logo and stuff like that. That's straight up
Yeah.
like in the show that Kingpin's taking like the more aggressive cops that have started using the Punisher logo to hunt and kill vigilantes, and
That's pretty cool. That's
they
actually
become
a
his
good
private
idea.
like police force.
Well, that's actually one of the what's weird? We just got to hype up that first Spider-Man PS4 game because that is like one of the better superhero plots of like recent years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like when you go into the third act of that and like New York City just becomes a police state,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like where it's like that's one of the better things in that video game. And yeah, that's a bad idea for a story, but I bet again, it sounds like they fumbled it.
Well, actually,
So
that's kind of where the season ends, and I'm like, you're ending on the stuff that's really cool. So on one hand, I'm always disappointed when they're like, next time we're gonna do the story you're really here to see, which always sucks. But the
yeah.
other side of it's like, I know Benson and Moorhead were just here for the salvage job as directors, but the salvage stuff is the best stuff. So like if they could work on it from the ground up for this season that they're already shooting now, right? Um like I'm gonna give it a shot. I finished the show after
I,
not liking that first episode because I mean it was just out in the open what a mess it was, and I want to give it a fair shot, right? And some of the
yeah.
standalone stuff works, a lot of it doesn't. And you can tell like they basically like had to like reshoot a
That
lot of
was
the
my
Kingpin stuff to make an overarching plot. I don't think it had an overarching plot.
Huh? Well, all right. I guess that's my big question was just the like 'cause, yeah, it was out there how much of a disaster the production was. And so my guess is like, okay, is this just going to be like something that growing pains and maybe they'll find their right footing for season 2 of Born Again. Because it is something where like I do like the Daredevil stuff has so far remained independent enough that it's not as reliant on the shared universe thing. And I wouldn't mind being like, okay, there's one bad season in there, kind of like Community,
Mm-hmm.
and if you just ignore, like, if you just kind of like get through that one, it gets better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I would love for that to be the case because I'll stick with Daredevil even if I'm not fully with the Marvel stuff. But I would like it to get back to like the Netflix vibe. It's just
Yeah.
again, it's just crazy. It's like you have a working formula and you fuck it up. Uh, but
Yeah, no,
whatever.
completely. And I'll say our boys Benson and Moorhead, they're clearly like scraping bottom of the barrel. Like they're trying to fucking inject life into this. I think I described to you a little bit before we started recording. Like it felt like they
Yeah.
have like the paddles for resuscitation. Like every episode's like, all right, clear. Poof. Ah, we lost that one. Okay, move on to the next one. Clear. Oh, maybe a little something. Ah, that's gone. Okay, the next one. Okay, look, there's a spark of life. We're going. We're going. Yeah, let's bring back Frank Castle. Karen Page pops up for the entire, well, not the entire, but like the final episode again, and she's in like the last like chunk of that, and it's just, I'm sorry, there's just no comparison. Like the original character dynamics, like if it works, it works. Like it felt like coming home a little bit. So I think you're right. I think if you can retroactively push aside the badness of this season and be like, look, it's in a way, it's sort of a meta lost narrative for Daredevil. The next one can be like the true like resuscitation of the series. Like that can happen. I do believe that can happen, and I didn't feel
You
that
know what's
going into
funny?
it.
Yeah, like up until now, what's kind of funny though about all the Netflix shows is that unlike a lot of the MCU stuff, you can really just ignore the stuff that sucked in the Netflix shows. Like you do not need to watch fucking Iron Fist,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Like you don't need to watch Iron Fist. You don't even need to watch the Defenders. You know, it's a weird like opposite of the movies
Yeah.
where the when they actually come together, that's the worst one. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, watch Daredevil, watch Jessica Jones, you know, like watch Luke Cage, like, you know, you got it. Like that's you watch Punisher. The Punisher show was pretty good.
I like the first season. All right. The second
Yeah, I
season
get
is definitely
a lot of
yeah.
a lot of those shows as they went to their last season was kind of like there was like you get the vibe that there was writing on the wall, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like it feels like everyone's a little bit less committed
Yeah.
to what they're doing.
And I'll say I think that's another problem. I think the Luke Cage actor kind of talks shit. I don't remember exactly what, but he was like rightfully, I think, pissed off that those shows all were the most watched things on Netflix for the most part. Like besides like Stranger Things, right? And they fucking they got their fucking shit canceled because Marvel didn't want to keep that deal with Netflix. You know?
it was entirely out of spite. It was there was no business sense to it whatsoever. It was just because they were going to launch Disney Plus and they didn't want to compete. They didn't want to be working with a competing streaming service.
Yeah. Which is why they initially tried to just make Daredevil like an entirely new thing just with like the aesthetic similarities. Which was a mistake, and I commend them for actually recognizing that. And you know, everyone kind of knows Kevin Feige was the one who saw those 6 episodes and was like, "Shut this down now. We need to fix this." That's a good call. That was an outright good call. Now, should they have waited longer to make it work better? Yes, but whatever. Capitalism's. It was the right call. It was a good call, Ripley. It was a good call. And the Defenders will probably pop up next season.
It was wrong.
Yeah.
Oh God.
No. I think I think that's how it ends, because it's gonna be like they do full on like the Kingpin like takes over New York. Like it's like martial law and shit. Like it's the first season that ends with like without any sort of victory. They just kind of survive, right? And now he's like fully Daredevil again and shit. And he's like, all right, you know, it's like we're heading into battle. We need an army. And it's like, oh, okay, well, here's some supporting characters you saw a couple episodes, but really it's everyone kind of knows they're going to bring the Defenders back, which I don't think is a bad call, frankly.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. And for the nerds out there who are like, well, we got to have Spider-Man because he's in New York. There's no reality where that happens. I'm sorry. Like that's not how these...
there's too much money on the line for Spider-Man.
Yeah. Like, sorry everyone. And then I'll just get this out of the way now so we can talk about Elektra a little bit. The last little complaints I have, so I'm not here all day because again, I did not think it was a good season, but I liked enough at the end that I'll give it a shot. Stop shooting your television shows with anamorphic lenses. Anamorphic lenses are great when you know how to use them. Benson and Moorhead know how to use them on a schedule and on a budget like this. They don't have time to do it properly. It's not their fault. Stop doing it. When you don't know how to use them, it washes out the image and makes everything look really low contrast and flat and murky. Stop doing it. Shoot more on location. You can afford that now. It looks good when you do it, so keep doing it. And for the love of fucking God, whoever is greenlighting these needle drops, get another job. Maybe don't fire them. Work's hard to come by for everyone now. Give them another job and stop greenlighting these needle drops. They're not cool. It's not what people come to these shows for. They're not Guardians of the Galaxy. They're not Thor, the Taika version. So stop doing it.
What's the song that's in the fucking Thunderbolts trailer?
They do "Where Is My Mind" for one.
Yeah, but that's not the one I'm thinking of.
Possum Kingdom, like the first one, right? The down out.
Let me check. I gotta look it up.
Okay. Oh, I'll also say, people were like, "Man, the violence in this new show is so sick," and it's like, I guess, but it's not. Again, not really what I came to this for. lighten up a little, I guess. Like, I'm not
Mm.
like, there's some Terrifier level violence in this, and I was kind of shocked by that. And again, I'm not offended by it. I'm just like, that's not really what I'm here for. So that's all.
Nothing's gonna stop us now by Jefferson Starship.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that trailer.
That's the one I've seen.
Oh, I'm sorry. It just
From
gave you
the,
like a war flashback.
Yeah, because it sucks.
Yeah.
Thunderbolts looks terrible. I don't know if we're in the future now and like it's like somehow made money, but fuck, that looks bad. Um,
I've been liking the trailer I saw way back when, but
are you all drunk? What the fuck?
yeah.
There's like not a goddamn thing about that thing looks interesting.
Look, I'm only human. I'm only human.
Are you gonna? Or maybe I should drive if you're not in the mood to drive because you're driving. Would drive the car driving. This is banter, right?
I actually have not seen that scene, which is probably why I'm
Are,
more positive on the
are
trailer.
you are you seriously suggesting we work together?
Oh, is that dialogue?
Are you seriously saying we're like the Avengers?
Okay, yeah. Okay. Well, when you say these lines, it's not ideal. I haven't seen these new trailers, I guess.
Are you seriously saying? That's what every line in that fucking trailer sounds like.
Okay, well maybe it will be bad. I don't know.
Wake me up inside. I can't wake up, wake me up inside. Save me, call my name and save me from the dark. Wake me up with my blood to run. I can't wake up before I come undone. Save me from the nothing I've become.
All right, I know you keep wanting to move on from Daredevil,
Yeah.
but I'm sitting here and I'm like, what's the plot?
The movie or the show now?
The plot now. Like we already did the show.
Okay. You know, that's the thing. I don't know. Like, it is so funny that the show has fucking problems that the movie had so long ago. Just
Yeah,
the plot can't be easily summarized, which fine for a TV show, I would argue, because it's longer, but I guess it's about. Let me look up the Wikipedia description. Hang on. Let me just fucking.
Well, no, well, like, yeah. Well, like the main thing is just that, like,
actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna look up the Letterboxd one. I have my list of favorite to least favorite superheroes things. Do you have a list like that? Just out of curiosity.
Of favorite, least favorite superhero movies.
Yeah.
I think at one point I just did a list of like the good Marvel movies, and I put like 6 movies on it, but that's about it.
That's incredibly funny.
So,
well, like for reference, Elektra, I've got like a 134, smack dab between the Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Far From Home. And then for Daredevil, where are you? You are not high. I know that. Okay, between Deadpool and Deadpool 2, which feels meaner to the first Deadpool, frankly.
Yeah.
All right, so Daredevil, when the streets have gone to hell, have faith in the devil, which is okay, pretty good tagline. A man blinded in a childhood accident fights crime using his superhumanly elevated remaining senses, which is,
I mean, that's about as complicated as the plot gets.
Yeah, but I think the mere description of that, which is very broad for a character with such specific traits, is the problem in and of itself, because it's not secretive for any reason. It's just not anything specific going on.
No.
Which is the problem. It's like,
because you got like Joey Pants running around there,
mm-hmm.
you know, trying to like uncover the Kingpin, but then it's like, what do you mean? Like, what does that even mean? Like, they never really define what that means ever. Just that like there might be a guy called the Kingpin,
yeah,
and then we know who the Kingpin is, and it seems like everyone knows who the Kingpin is.
Yeah,
but also no one knows who the Kingpin is, and then you could believably frame the guy from The Mummy as the Kingpin.
No, yeah.
Whereas that guy doesn't look like he's the king of anything. Like, no offense to the man, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
But I would never buy that he's in charge of fucking the New York underworld.
Yeah. But I liked that actor because, you know, I was such a huge Mummy fan even as a kid that like when he
Yeah.
popped up in this I was like, "Oh, it's the guy. It's the guy from the library."
He was all over the place between like 95 until like the mid 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Like it's he's in Mr. Deeds and the Master of the Skies the year before this. Uh,
He was also in Alias with Jennifer Garner at the
oh
time.
hey, yeah, no.
Like for like an episode. I'm not he didn't have like a big
Oh,
part.
okay.
But yeah, he's in he's like torture I think he tortures her in an episode.
Okay, sure. That
Yeah.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
Do you ever see the episode? Do you ever see the thing they did, I think for the Emmys where it's Alias and it's like you got a new recruit. We got someone we're added to the team. And it's Columbo.
Yeah. I do remember that. That's
And then just they're
amazing.
doing all the fucking technical lingo, and he's like, "What the heck are you talking about?" It's the best. All right, and before we move on from Daredevil, is there anything in it that you would like know as like that's comic book superhero shit? Is there anything that stands out in the movie?
God, I don't think so. Like I
I
guess
like
some of the
I
balletic
like
action, but I also don't think it's done well.
yeah, none of the action's done well, which hurts. Uh, I like when Joey Pants throws his cigarette on the ground and it lights up the Daredevil logo.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The reflection
That's
in the
kind of fun.
glasses is a very cool moment.
Yeah. Like, you know what? I just a core memory unlocked. I remember when this movie came out and opened to number one, they redid that Daredevil, the DD flame, and they did a number one. And it was like Daredevil is the number one movie at the box
All right,
office.
that's pretty
I
cool.
I, ju- I just remember they don't do that anymore for
No, they
movie
should.
trailers.
They
Yeah,
should.
I distinctly remember that
Yeah,
now.
this is
Now.
why whatever the Minecraft movies for literal babies, but like this is why that movie's bullshit because their number one movie in the world commercials should have like Jack Black building the number one like in the Minecraft world.
Yeah, yeah. Some Minecraft thing should just be the number one. It would
Yeah,
take them 2 seconds to make,
yeah, I
but
know. Fucking people like design entire movie sets in Minecraft now. Like, come on, guys,
yeah,
get it together.
yeah.
Um,
It's one of those like easiest layups of all time that they fucked up is that they should have just done a movie in Minecraft. Like they should have just done that. It would have been a hit, and it would have cost them like $30 to make,
yeah. I
and
think
it would have made
Rob from
like
It's
500.
Always Sunny wanted to do like a version of that for his pitch on that movie.
See, that would have been fun. And then like some studio executives would be like, "What do you mean kids don't like this?" And it's like, dude, look at how many views a Minecraft stream gets.
Yeah.
Like, it's it's actually very big in the VTuber world.
Oh, is it?
Recently, Ninja Sanji did some
Jesus
Minecraft
Christ.
streams, and
Oh my
all right,
fucking
now
god.
put the thing, put the thing right here. Um, and that's the best numbers they've actually done in years, which is kind of fascinating.
Uh-huh.
And that was before the movie came out. Elektra.
Elektra. Um Directed by Rob Bowman. I don't think we mentioned that yet
Yeah, it's
because I had my Daredevil
our
TV show
second
tangent.
our second Rob Bowman movie.
Yeah, Rob Bowman Autism?
I mean, he's got like 4 movies.
Yeah, I think Elektra killed his movie career, and maybe he's just happier directing television because, frankly,
Yeah,
it probably pays a lot better and more consistently.
yeah, yeah. And then you don't have to have your name on an embarrassing movie like Elektra.
Yeah. See, I'm aware of like the problems the Daredevil movie had. I don't know the problems with the Elektra movie. So if there's stuff, um, like I know the shoot dates for Daredevil, like it was less than 70 shoot days, which is fucking insane for a movie of that size. For reference, the original Spider-Man had like 120 days or 140 days,
Yeah,
which is much more fitting. Like I know Jennifer Garner didn't want to do the movie, but because she was still on contract from
Yeah,
the Daredevil stuff. Like she had to.
this feels like a contractually obligated tax write-off. It's just like Daredevil made enough money that you have to make a sequel to it, but no one actually wants a sequel. But Elektra's got some juice as a character, so maybe we'll do an Elektra movie. And then no one wants it. And then also, Hollywood's run by sexist weirdos, so we're not going to market it at all because we don't believe a woman superhero can. This is a weird run when they did the women superhero things, and it was always like, did anyone even try to write a script for this? Like, that's what the vibe is for a bunch of women-led superhero movies from this era.
Mm-hmm.
Like going back to like Barbed Wire and shit like that, which I know had a similar problem.
Yeah, it's so strange. But did you know that they actually tried to make an Elektra movie before the Daredevil movie?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it was that thing. There's again, there was just an era where people did not know what to do with superhero characters, and it was just like someone saw that a comic sold X amount, so it was like we should make that into a movie, right? I mean, Ant-Man almost got a movie in the early '90s just because of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah, that's
And
exactly
like,
how these people still think.
Shrinking's big. Do Ant-Man. We have the rights to Ant-Man. That was literally a moment where Marvel was bought by a company where they bought it, and then one executive went to the other and was like, "Man, I can't believe we just got Superman." And then the executive was like, "No, that's DC. We bought Marvel." He's like, "Well, then who did we buy?" So that was literally the owners of Marvel at the beginning of the '90s. So,
Goddamn.
yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of that where it's just like a comic book sold a certain amount, especially during that comic boom of the early '90s, right? Like X-Men #1 being the highest selling comic book of all time. Like there's, and right before the bubble burst, it feels like that's where a lot of these, they've just entered production on this movie started, right?
Yeah.
And then those movies just didn't materialize. So it's yeah. But Elektra is one of the most aggressively uninteresting movies I think I've ever seen. My Letterboxd review, I said at a certain point I didn't know if there was an hour or 15 minutes left in the movie. And it turned out there was about 20 minutes left. But still, like what I was watching it being like, I, I what's happening? And it's not even like, I would honestly not be like, it's not a train wreck, right?
Yeah,
Like
no.
it's not a disaster, and it doesn't have things you can kind of easily point to be like, this is why this movie doesn't work. It's just kind of like you just watch and go like, why are we here? And no one has that answer.
Yeah. I think it if anything they really wanted her to make this movie because Alias kind of lit the world on fire for primetime television for a bit. You got to remember Alias gets JJ his film career.
Yeah. You
know.
Yeah, literally, that's what got him meetings with like Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg and shit.
Yeah,
was Alias.
Yeah,
and then he got all that credit for Lost, even though he only did the pilot.
Yeah, which is still one of the great television pilots, and I would say Alias is a very good television pilot as well. Like the last episode he directs for Alias, the season 2 finale, has one of the best action fight scenes I've ever seen in television. Still, it's really remarkable.
J.J. Abrams, not a bad action director.
No.
I don't think either of us are going to criticize him for his action directing. It's other areas he tends to struggle in.
Yeah, someone said the director J.J. Abrams is often sabotaged by the writer J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams defeats J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, it's sort of a Jekyll and Hyde situation, if you ask me. But yeah, I guess this was pretty much rushed out just to make some extra cash. at some point. Just briefly
Yeah.
looking over some of the production history, like the brief stuff that I know about. Like, Rob Bowman said that like he knew it was gonna be like a really short production schedule, and they weren't gonna have a lot of money. Um, so he's really gonna try to make like a story about a character learning compassion. Not a bad idea for an action movie. You know, a lot of stuff is like
I
that.
will say I think the one kind of smart thing this movie does is it just doesn't give a shit about anything that happened in Daredevil.
Yeah.
Like it's just like we're just gonna tell our own story here.
Hmm.
And that's honestly the right attitude, frankly. And I'll say this. I can tell you what the plot of Elektra is. I can't tell you what the plot of Daredevil is.
Yeah.
So he did at least focus the movie.
Yeah.
Now, did it help? Not really,
No,
but
no, but I do
it's
think it's a very good looking movie. Like I really do, and I think it's beautifully lit.
it's
Um,
it's better looking than Daredevil.
yeah, Daredevil has like a lot of splashy colors that I like, but
Mm.
yeah, I agree with that. It does look better than Daredevil.
Daredevil just feels like they spent a lot of money. Is the thing. Like Daredevil's like this is a lot of money, whereas Elektra's like this is a Sci-Fi Channel original movie that somehow got a wide release.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's the exact vibe.
this is Dragonheart: A New Beginning, but somehow it's got like a $40 million budget and it's got a theatrical release.
Yeah.
So
And it has a deleted Ben Affleck cameo.
yeah, it feels like they had to film him and then had to cut him out.
Yeah.
Like,
Um.
but
Oh, also,
hey,
has one of the first times I had ever seen a woman kiss a woman on screen at a younger
oh
age.
yeah, there's that.
Yeah. It's the
Again,
kiss of
yeah,
death,
this
though.
movie kind of this kind of sneaks like some subversive stuff into it. Am I gonna say Elektra's better than Daredevil? Am I gonna
I
say
it
that?
I don't want to
Uh,
say it, but it does sound like you're
I,
leaning that way.
let's see.
Well,
All
because
right,
I also
Daredevil's
don't believe that.
103.
For the record, I disagree with that notion.
Daredevil is 103 minutes. Elektra is 97 minutes. Elektra's the better movie.
Well, you know what? You
So
got me there.
yeah. Also, here's something. So, uh, there's a guy in this movie named Master Roshi who is not based on anyone from the comics, so far as I can tell. But
Hmm.
Master Roshi is a Dragon Ball Z character.
Hmm.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
What's going
Played
on here?
by Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, who is you've seen him. You just
Yeah,
have. Everyone has
he's
seen
been
him.
in a million things.
Yeah, and he's
We've
awesome.
probably somehow done like 6 movies he's in without even realizing it, probably.
Yeah, at least. um, oh, Terrence Stamp plays Stick. All the hand
Yep.
Daredevil stuff is in this movie, basically. Like they didn't bother
Although
with that for
if
his
you want to,
movie, and it's here.
yeah. And you know what? It works better here than it does in some other areas. Like just because it's just straight up a kung fu movie, right? Like if I
Hmm.
just treat it as that, it kind of works. If I
Yeah.
try to like be like, is this a good superhero movie? Not really. But in terms of just like, yeah, this is this is this is 3 episodes of a TV show that didn't go anywhere and they edited it into a movie. Like it was a backdoor pilot attached to Xena Warrior Princess. I'm kind of like, yeah, it's all right when you look at it through that angle. Like, but
Well, here's something I'm
so
thinking
I
about. In terms of like direction, what is cinematic? You know what I mean? Like to me, cinematic
yeah
is like it's not so much a format. I don't like when people describe it as that. Like IMAX is instantly cinematic. No, it's not. I've fucking seen some dog shit IMAX movies. We all have, you know. um, it's not anamorphic. It's it's the marriage of like form and the story content, and I think it's got to be visually expressive in a way. And I think Elektra is a much more cinematic movie than Daredevil and maybe even season 4
yeah
of Daredevil.
All right, yeah. I
Um,
mean, I think we might be. That's where we kind of overlap in our agreement, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. It's like,
Uh,
look, it does suck that like basically every superhero movie led by a woman is like bad, with like rare exception, like the
yeah,
first Wonder Woman. I think we both like Captain Marvel, right? The
yeah. We're
first,
both defenders of Captain Marvel.
yeah. Um,
And
that's really fucked up. That's like it. That we
yeah,
can't
it's
think
not
of
great.
other
And it's like,
stuff that is like just jumps to our minds.
and it is embarrassing that it's like how long it took them just to get Wonder Woman made, right? Like
Mm.
we should be like, oh my God, they're doing Wonder Woman again. Like that should be the attitude at this point. And instead it's like we've had two Wonder Woman movies and one of them was good.
Yeah.
And
No, I think even further, the attitude should be, oh man, get to another female character already, not the fifth Wonder Woman
yeah.
movie. But no,
Mm.
it's, hey, they should do another Wonder Woman movie with a new actress.
Have they even talked about that with the upcoming Gunniverse, whatever we're gonna call it?
No, the first announcement, he revealed that they were going to do an Amazon show. Not on the
Oh
platform. I mean,
yeah,
like about the
yeah.
Amazonians.
Yeah, he was like, "We're going to do Amazonians. It's going to be like Game of Thrones," which is a good way of just saying things.
Yeah,
Um,
everyone was like, "What does that mean?" And then it's been radio silent ever since. And with the inclusion of the death of that Wonder Woman game, part of me even thinks like someone's killing the women led projects over there. Like maybe that's a conspiracy theory
uh,
I just have. I don't know anything, but
I mean, who could be doing that? Who
I don't
who
know.
who who is there anyone there we could point to that could be doing specifically that?
I mean, there would have to be someone who's already like on the record in public for trying to delete
Maybe there's like
movies for tax write-off purposes.
maybe there's a kingpin of anti-cinema. Now that I think about it, there are some connections, and it seems to circle around Warner Brothers. I'm
No.
not
You
sure.
think so?
Yeah, now that I think about it. I know that sounds crazy. Like I know it's crazy to throw out there might be a kingpin of movie crime, but it's starting to feel like it. Um, Especially with like how like they're like, there's all this talk right now about how like Little Warner Brothers is promoting Sinners, and they just dumped a Bong Joon-ho movie in theaters in IMAX with very little promotion. And yeah,
David
now that I
Zaslav
think
just
about
walks
it,
out and he's like, "When I was a boy."
if he started, too bad he like. Unfortunately, he just sounds like a boring asshole when he
I know,
talks.
I
He
know. That's
says
what's
no.
fucked
There's
up.
no. Yeah,
That's what's fucked up about
it's all
reality.
the guys. All the guys ruining everything are just boring assholes.
They're such fucking losers.
Yeah.
Like at least
Ugh.
Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin's got like charisma, even with like
Yeah.
less good material. It's like, you embarrass me in front of Vanessa. It's like, yeah, it's fucking
Yeah.
scary. Not this fucking dweeb in charge of the government now.
Yeah.
That could be referring to
So
like half a dozen people at this point, but
it's
I just
literally,
know it's
it's
valid
literally
for all of them.
everyone.
Yeah.
This dweeb, the one of our dweeb oligarchs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Here's a
hey,
question
uh,
that I have no idea how to get back to this, but whatever. So I have mixed opinions about Elektra and the Hand. We didn't talk about Stick at all. Obviously, I didn't even talk about him when I talked about the show. Um,
yeah.
I like Terrence Stamp a lot, and I like who the fuck Scott Glenn, who plays Stick in the shows. Scott Glenn's fucking awesome. Um,
Yeah, Scott Glenn always like shows up is the thing.
yeah.
Like, um,
Thoughts on the character of Stick in Elektra and just in general, I guess.
um, Stick is fine
Yeah.
as like a Frank Miller insert.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is kind of the thing.
And although I gotta say, one thing I found really funny is that I was watching Elektra and like Terrence Stamp at one point goes like, "I'm blind and I can see better than you," And I'm like, oh yeah, he's supposed to be blind.
Yeah.
Like I had totally like forgotten that. So, um, yeah, that's about all I got in terms of the character of Stick. Uh,
Yeah. Scott Glenn elevates that shit for me. Scott Glenn and Elodie Young
I would say
elevate all that shit.
Terrence Stamp does elevate it a little bit here because Terrence Stamp is one of those guys that doesn't really phone it in. You
Yeah.
know, um, he just knows how to do those things.
Yeah.
Um, it's like
Terrence.
Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah.
Like he just does the work.
Yeah. Terrence Stamp, the actor who once played a character in a movie who was so good at fucking it drove a family insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Pasolini's
Oh
Theorem,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
Teorema as it's pronounced in Italian, which is
I mean,
a great movie and hilarious.
yeah. That was kind of the movie. Oh god, I don't even remember what it was called now. What's the movie I defended?
Saltburn. It's Saltburn.
Saltburn. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
Saltburn
that the
is
movie
that.
the movie I defended so hard that I didn't remember its name. Yeah, Saltburn was doing that. I think we mentioned that in the episode,
Yeah,
thankfully.
yeah.
Uh, but
Yeah, Terrence
yeah.
Stamp, Dick Two Bomb.
Did they like did they do any sort of like General Zod thing in the fucking Flash movie?
Oh, General Zod is in that movie, huh?
But like, did they do Terrence Stamp General Zod at all?
No, I have remember I have not seen that movie, but
Oh,
Michael
okay.
Shannon Zod is the bad guy in that movie.
I know that he's in that. I was just thinking like it's so weird that they like brought back it's like Christopher Reeve and he's dead, but like Terrence Stamp's still alive.
Oh
Like,
God, that's weird. They could have done that.
yeah, there's a lot of people from those movies that are still alive that you could that were alive when the movie was being made that they could have put in the movie, and instead it was like, what if we got like only the dead guys?
What a fucking. We're not talking about that movie, by the way. We'll just.
Yeah, you know
Yeah, we're
what?
not
We
doing
made
that.
like a whole list, and I think arguably we should, but I don't think we're going to.
There's another movie we could talk
Um,
about where we bring it up, but I
mhm.
just. I'm sorry. We don't get paid for this. I don't want to do that movie.
um,
Yeah, no. Um, I'm willing to put money down that Elektra is a better movie than The Flash, though.
yeah. Um, yeah, but like this is weird. Where like the Flash isn't really a movie though. Like,
Yeah, it's a corporate manufactured attempt at cross promotional
it
marketing.
almost it. You know what it feels like? It feels like a warning being sent by like a kingpin of some sort of movie crime. This is what if you try to resist, this is what we'll do to cinema.
Uh, you know what? It sucks, but that's a completely understandable statement you just made. That makes perfect sense in my
Oh,
internet
The
poisoned
weirdest
brain.
thing of the weirdest thing about the Flash movie was just Zaslav like canceling so many projects and being like, but we have to release the Ezra Miller starring Flash.
Yeah. They just spent so much fucking money on that thing that it's like they they felt that they had to, even though if you're writing shit off for taxes, I mean,
Yeah.
that that seems like a pretty smart idea, you know?
Seems like a pretty easy one. My whole thing though with that was just it's like, all right, we're already in this position where you're trying to start a new universe and stuff. And it's like a bunch of the shit that work. You know, you had a Flash TV show that ended fairly close to the release of that movie. Why not just like digitally make him the Flash?
Mm.
Like that would have been my like move. And like what was who did they replace Kevin Spacey with in the fucking All the Money in the World? Christopher Plummer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Christopher
Like
Plummer.
yeah, Christopher Plummer it with the kid from the Flash Flash TV show.
Yeah, Grant Gustin. A great
Yeah.
Flash. I've never finished that show. It falls off, but people
Yeah, but
liked
also
him
it's
and people
what
liked
you
that show.
but it's you know what though you should be forced to watch all of the Flash because it is what you've been begging for television, where
No,
it's
it
like
is.
23 episode seasons, like it's a full show, it's episodic but also has an arc. Like
No, all that is
we were still
true.
doing it. We were still doing that up until 2023 apparently.
No, yes, all that is, well, most of that is true, but you have to remember, they stopped doing the 22 seasons October 2019. Or no. Okay, so season 6 is 19 episodes. That's where I kind of fall off. Season 7's 18 episodes. Season 8 is 20 episodes, better. And then season 9 is only 13 episodes, and it ends before the release of the Flash movie 1 month later. So
Almost like you could have perfectly tied it into the movie.
yeah, right. And you know what? They do a Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, right? Which is a total mess, but it's pretty fun.
That was literally just an excuse to be like, let's just do every fan servicey thing ever, and because it's on the CW, you're not going to complain.
Yeah. And, you know, whatever. All the other crossovers are so much more fun and so much better, especially the one where they go to Earth X, the one that's taken over by Nazis. That's like the best Justice League live action thing to date, basically, by like a mile. But that the Crisis on Infinite Earths episode, I'm bringing that up because Ezra Miller's in that episode. He cameos as his Flash, and they meet each other. And before he fades back to his Earth, he's like, "Oh, I told Victor it would work." Like Victor, you know, Cyborg. Like
what a fun show!
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. Yeah, I'm pro the
it
Flash.
actually was.
I am
Like,
pro the Flash
yeah,
TV show.
I missed all those CW shows. Like
Yeah,
they weren't perfect.
again,
but
and those were the
goddamn,
most successful shows on that network, and they all just ended basically through vindictive producer bullshit, the same way as the Netflix Marvel shows. You know, different reasons, but ultimately not really. So,
which show had Gorilla Grodd go back in time to murder Barack Obama?
oh yeah,
that was Legends of
Gorilla
Tomorrow?
Grodd starts in the Flash, and then
yeah, obviously,
and then it's Legends of Tomorrow, the show that also ends with finally the appearance of Booster Gold, and then gets canceled, and,
which feels kind of perfect for Booster Gold, frankly.
Yeah.
that feels very appropriate.
Yeah.
But wow.
Yeah. What a world. What a world.
See, that's why the movies suck, because it's just like they'll never do Gorilla Grodd in them. I mean now they might because James Gunn's running it, but who knows if he's actually gonna like get to do anything, right?
Yeah.
Like,
this is, maybe I'll hold it for the other episode we're doing. Can I just say, like, we're doing Suicide Squad?
Yeah, we'll do those movies eventually.
Yeah. Well, because Creature Commandos is basically the Suicide Squad 2, right?
Yeah.
And I know you're not going to watch that, and I wasn't crazy about
Why
it.
would I?
There is, it does, like, if this stuff is going to be an overarching, interconnected plot, that one, being the first one out the door, does concede that Gorilla Grodd is, like, going to be behind shit. So...
yeah, here's something that you might not know if you're not a comic book nerd. Gorilla Grodd is like one of the most powerful villains in the DC.
Yeah, it heavily hints that Gorilla Grodd will be like the first big villain of the franchise.
That would genuinely be ballsy, frankly. Like just to be like, with all this shit where it's like, we got Thanos, we tried doing Kang the Conqueror and it didn't work, and now it's like Doctor Doom, but he's also Iron Man, and then like the DC just be like, it's fucking Gorilla Grodd. Like, shut the fuck up. Like...
And you know what? Considering that the last decade of fans did grow up with that Flash show where Gorilla Grodd is in the show. And I think at the time, we're used to like Smallville, like teasing, like, oh, eventually this character will be that character from the DC universe, but we can't afford to show them. At first, we all
Yeah.
assumed that was going to happen. And they're like, nope, season 1, Gorilla Grodd runs amok and takes his adoptive father hostage, and now he has to save him with mind control. It's like, all right, we're just going there.
Gor- Gorilla Grodd rules.
He does.
He was also great, like the Justice League cartoon. He was great on that.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah. Well, like people growing up with that, like now they're of the age where they're going to be watching these movies in theaters by like as adults or like young adults.
yeah.
Like they probably know Gorilla Grodd. It reminds me of like
Totally.
how Green Lantern, like when Green Lantern came out, people like who don't read comics were straight up accusing the movie of whitewashing Green Lantern because they knew him from the show as Jon Stewart.
Yeah. I mean, it's embarrassing that they didn't do Jon Stewart,
Yeah.
frankly, because he's a more interesting character. I totally forgot Powers Booth voiced Gorilla Grodd
Yeah.
on
Isn't
Justice
that
League.
fucking awesome?
Those animated shows, whatever the fuck was going on, they had the most insanely stacked voice casts of all time. Like, it was ridiculous.
We can talk
But-
about it on that eventual DC discussion, but I think there's a little bit of backlash against those shows recently because they're not like 100% authentic adaptations of certain characters,
go
like
fuck
Hawkgirl and
yourself.
stuff.
If that's why you're doing it, go fuck yourself if that's your complaint.
Yeah. I
Like,
think
I was
it's
kinda-
really
I
there's
was
a
kinda-
big Hawkgirl component that people are unhappy with, and that was my introduction to Hawkgirl, so I'm like out of the loop on that. But I've just seen that lately, is all.
I know Hawkgirl kind of ruled on Justice League. Like, it's different.
No, I
but,
agree.
like,
She's my favorite character in that show.
Yeah. And she's like got like actual like it's one of those things where like this is not to fucking romanticize our fucking childhoods, but like cartoons weren't that complicated when we were that young, right? Like they weren't the most complicated things ever because it was episodic and you couldn't have characters be that dynamic. There weren't that many arcs. And then it's like Hawkgirl goes to like a whole arc where she's got like conflicted loyalties and shit. And her relationship in the Justice League changes between seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's fascinating. I don't know. My whole thing was I was going to be like, because like they brought Bruce Timm back to do another Batman thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and there's a part of me that's just like, let the DC animated universe just end. Like, we don't need to keep doing it. It's over, right? Especially now that Kevin Conroy's passed away. Like, let's stop doing this. Just now would be a good time to do completely original cartoon series for all these characters. And I thought that was going to be the backlash, but instead you're like, oh, they didn't like how Hawkgirl was done. And I'm like, whatever. I don't know. That bugs me.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the wrong fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
and we all pick the wrong fight once in a while. It happens as nerds.
Also, let me just check real quick. Justice League the cartoon ended in 2004. So
wow.
we can move on. All right, they didn't do Hawkgirl. Right. We can do other things now, I guess.
Yay.
We're not beholden to the continuity of the Justice League cartoon anymore.
As much as they want us to be, because those DVD sales are somehow still reliable enough to keep producing those animated movies every year.
I know, that's crazy. And those animated movies suck ass.
I haven't seen any in years. Since the early 2010s, I tapped out.
If you wanted to see a comic you really like adapted in a worse format, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's usually what it winds down to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you're somehow in this weird circle where you're too embarrassed to read a comic book, but not embarrassed enough to like not watch a children's cartoon, then it's perfect.
Yeah. My last thing on that is that I've sort of had a conspiracy theory that they just keep producing those from the Warner Brothers catalog specifically to sort of flood the physical media market, what's left of it. Because I went to like one of those used video stores in a mall in Torrance. People that know Torrance or Redondo Beach, the Del Amo, the Galleria. I went into I think it's Book Off, it's called. And I was looking just like old Blu-rays and stuff like that. I was trying to find another copy of 28 Days Later. No luck, obviously, right? And then I look over and I see just the walls fucking covered with those DC animated movies. And now that's a used video store, so it's not the same thing as a place that still holds physical media on a regular basis. But it was just it was an entire like wall. And so my brain immediately jumps to, oh, is this like an attempt at overtaking what's left of the physical media market? Again, no proof or indication of this apart from the moment I felt a cold pit at the bottom of my stomach looking at that wall.
Right.
But just,
To me, it just signals that the moment people got an HBO Max subscription, they were like, well, I don't need to hold on to these DVDs anymore.
I mean, hopefully that's all it is. Hopefully
that's really what it feels like. It feels like there was a boom of it where it's just like comic book. I think that filled a weird void where if you were like, annoyed with the DC movies at the time, you could buy the animated films, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt like that's what that market was. And then it's, you know what? Now I think about it, it's kind of crazy how many markets DC dominates in over Marvel, except the movies.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's like they had more. They had more live action TV shows. They had more animated TV shows. They have more video games. They have all the other stuff except the movies.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
That is strange.
Well, you know what? I know what it is. It's the fact that Warner Brothers has been through like 5 regime changes in 15 years.
That's maybe part of it.
It's frankly a miracle any good movies have come out of that studio.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's fucking difficult. I don't envy people having to make movies there.
No, neither. Especially now that you don't have that fucking Time Warner money backing you up.
Yeah. Yeah. Any last thoughts on Elektra?
Oh yeah, that's what we were here to talk about.
Yeah. Apologies to Jennifer Garner.
Apologies to Gargura. Don't worry, I don't have a rant this time.
Jennifer Gargura.
Oh shit, dog.
Whoa, yeah. That's what I'm saying. So you like this movie?
No, I didn't like it, but it's better than Daredevil.
I can't get there, but I don't know.
Yeah,
there's other movies that are bad like this. It's just I do think that the anger of this movie is maybe not outright rooted in sexism, but maybe a little bit. And I know there are fans that embrace this and Daredevil as like camp classics now, which I also disagree with.
Yeah. I think you could get there with Elektra, frankly. I think you could maybe get a little bit there. I don't think there's enough in Daredevil because Daredevil takes itself so fucking seriously. Like, that's a big problem the movie has, where it can't decide if it wants to be a superhero fun movie or if it wants to be an incredibly dark drama film, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have Daredevil on in the background, which I usually do when we record these episodes, and it's the scene where Elektra and Daredevil finally fight, and it's just like, what is going on at this point, right? Like, it's just the main fight of the movie is a misunderstanding.
Yeah, which is
that's
you know what? That's a weird
not the most engaging
trope.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of rooted in comic books. Here's part of it and it works better in the comic book format where one issue is just like you're gonna put on the cover Thor versus the Hulk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just your cover, and you're just selling that cover. That makes sense. So the reason they fight doesn't really fucking matter. Like you're
Yeah.
selling one issue of a comic, like, but then it because those are so many popular things, it ends up carrying over to the movies where it's like you kind of need it to be a little more complicated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they never do that.
And you know what?
I
Here you
mean,
go.
it carry
To
it.
do a little extra praise of the Daredevil show, in case I haven't been laying it on thick enough already. Season 2 with the Elektra stuff, they do an interesting decision to negate that sort of like miscommunication where she's the only one he feels he can be fully open with. That's an interesting
Mm,
approach. That's an interesting direction with that
yeah,
character, where he's still like kind of,
yeah.
he's on the mends with Foggy and outright like they don't talk for a certain point in the series until like push comes to shove in Defenders, and then no one likes that, and then again there's a period of time where they don't talk until season 3 again, and that there you go. That's an interesting approach to that character dynamic.
I guess here's what we here's I guess here's how we end it. Um, what would you say if someone was going to watch the Netflix Marvel stuff, right?
Mm.
Uh, what would you tell them to watch? Because we got three seasons of Daredevil, 3 seasons of Jessica Jones, 2 of Luke Cage, 2 of Iron Fist. I cannot believe there was a second season of Iron Fist. That's insane. Um,
Everyone says it got like significantly better, and I'm willing to bet it's because Jessica Henwick, who's in both seasons, becomes like the co-lead of that season.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then 1 season of Defenders, which was kind of just a mini series, and
Yeah.
uh, and then 2 of Punisher.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend people watch?
Daredevil, first season
Mm,
of Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage.
okay, all of
Luke
Luke
Cage
Cage
is,
or
is
just
all of it, especially season 2.
okay?
Season 2, I think I've definitely told you before, but since this is a new season of the failed blockbusters, I will explain again. To me, the perfect trilogy of the Marvel Netflix stuff is the first season of Jessica Jones, which is like stupendously good. But
Yeah,
it is like a straight up like crime thriller, like, and not like in the sugarcoating way, like, oh, it's actually political. Like, no, it's straight up is not interested in superheroic stuff. Like, you don't need to know Marvel to watch that one. Um, then season 2 of Luke Cage, which plays like an Elmore Leonard novel, frankly. Uh, and then the third season of Daredevil, which is the greatest season of a superhero TV show ever. Now, watch all of Daredevil,
okay.
watch all of Luke Cage, watch the first season of Jessica Jones. But I think there's even like an arc in there with those characters and those specific seasons, which is Jessica
Okay.
Jones season 1, Luke Cage season 2, Daredevil season 3.
All right.
Yeah,
So there you go. You got some watching to do.
yeah, go enjoy, and then I guess see what happens with Born Again in the future.
Yeah, we'll see if Born Again fucking fixes its shit.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I'm usually like throwing stuff to the wayside now if I just like don't like it, but I hope it's coming across that like I see enough potential in there to actually give this one another shot. So
yeah, I mean,
we'll
look,
see.
the like Loki was good. It's
Which the one I haven't
there's
seen. So
yeah. Well, it's funny. I think there is something where I realized like a big problem the Marvel movies were having in recent years is that Loki isn't in them anymore. Like it was it was like something
mm,
like, oh, Tom Hiddleston was kind of the thing holding these movies together, and we didn't realize it, right? Like,
yeah,
uh, but yeah, um, it's so there's enough with Daredevil that it'd be cool if they could right the ship, especially since it seems like they understood they fucked up. But who knows? Like I don't know what forces are really working behind the scenes right now, and um, nothing I've seen indicates that they're fixing anything over there.
yeah, yeah. We'll
Feel
see.
it. Everything's
It's
indicated they're doubling down on the worst stuff.
I gotta be honest. I don't know. But the changing gears does give me a little hope. It could be one of those situations where they did make the rare good thing, which they have done before, so we will see. Matt, thanks for joining me again. Daredevil, Elektra, congrats everyone for getting these movies, I guess. I don't know, whatever. I don't hate these. I just didn't like them.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're talking about next week. Do we want to figure it out right now? Because we got options.
We do have options. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Everyone in the future, you know what we're doing. You'll know before we do. So,
I mean, yeah, basically.
so
Matt, where can people find you?
I'm at Emperor OTN on Blue Sky, and that's pretty much it these days.
Yeah, you could find me on Twitter still, Blue Sky as well. Links down to everything else with the Waffle Press below. I'll be trying some streams. I know we want to get back to
keep
streaming.
an eye out for that. We're dabbling a little bit in streams, so keep an eye out for that stuff.
Yeah, keep an eye out. We'll be back next week with some other retrospectives. So thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. We have been professionally unprofessional.
Gargura, please don't leave.
Now that I know what I'm without, you can't just leave me. Breathe into me and make me